That's great. Well, do a little background on yourself. I know it's impressive. It's always impressive. I mean, whenever I hear you introduce yourself and who you are and what you've done, aside from your injury, which I think is
Right.
a vibrant part of your story, because as someone who's lost a leg in battle and still runs triathlons, I feel so underutilized as a human being I want to salute you just for that alone. But Daniel Gade, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a 25-year servant of the Constitution. I enlisted in the Army when I was 17 years old, and I served in uniform for 25 years until I retired as a lieutenant colonel in 2017. And during my service, I had some wonderful, tremendous experiences, and I had some pretty dark experiences. So I served in combat as a leader of a tank company where I had about 120 soldiers working for me in a nice little nasty place called Ramadi, west of Baghdad, in 2004 and a few days of 2005. And I was wounded in action twice, decorated for valor. And the second time I was wounded was very serious. I ended up losing my right leg at the hip and spending a year in the hospital. But what's really interesting about that time is that in my DNA, and maybe it's something about me, I don't know, but my story is this: that every time I'm given an opportunity to take a turn or not, or to serve or not serve, I always go the direction of service. And so a boss of mine came to me while I was in the hospital. I was still in the intensive care unit, and he said, "Hey, Daniel, I said, absolutely, I'm done surfing. I got to get out of the Army. This losing a leg thing is no fun." And he said, "Are you really done serving?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I'm not done serving." And so he said, "Okay, do you want to stay in the Army?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And so I decided right then that I was not going to let the enemy, my enemy, my battlefield enemy, determine when I got out of the Army, and I was going to do it on my own terms. So a year to the day after I got blown up, I started my master's degree at the University of Georgia.
Hang on a second here. Do you really refer to yourself as being blown up?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a factual description of what happened.
I know, but still, remember that day I got blown up? I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's actually a thing. So, and
Okay.
there were a couple of guys. By the way, there were 4 guys in the truck with me, 1 Iraqi interpreter and 3 Americans, and I'm in contact with 2 of the 3 Americans, and nobody got killed.
Oh my God.
Fortunately, I obviously almost died, but nobody else got hurt badly. So anyway, we all got blown up together. I got hurt. And anyway,
do you have like a blown up day anniversary? Do you get all?
Well, so we do actually. We celebrate something called Alive Day. And
Okay.
there's an HBO movie by the same title. It's not about me or anything.
Right.
But it's called Alive Day: Memories Back from Iraq or something like that. And it's really quite a good movie. It's very emotional, as you can imagine. But anyway, so
I'm sure.
So I spent a year and a half doing my master's degree at the University of Georgia in public policy, and I was I was going to go teach at West Point. That's what I always wanted to do. And so then I get a cold call from the White House personnel office. True story. I get a cold call from the White House saying, "Hey, this is the end of the Bush administration." They said, "We've had this problem with veterans care at Walter Reed or active duty military care at Walter Reed. Can you come help us?" And I said, "Yes, I can." So I ended up working for a little over a year as a White House domestic policy advisor, doing veterans policy, military health care, and national level disability policy for the Bush administration. And then I went back to University of Georgia to get my PhD. And that took 3 years. And then my PhD is basically in veterans policy or economic policy.
Okay.
And then I went to West Point and I taught there for 6 years. And then, after that, I was given an opportunity again. When you talk about serve or don't serve, I was given an opportunity. I was called from White House personnel, and they said, "Hey, the Trump administration is needing good political appointees. Would you be willing to work for President Trump?" And I said, "Absolutely, I will." So I went to DC and I worked at the U.S. Department of Labor for about 15 months as a political appointee in a position where I was working on veterans policy related to employment primarily. And then and now I'm back in academia. I'm a professor at American University in DC, and that's a lot of fun too. So the reason all that is interesting, I think, from a political point of view, is this: that basically I view this race as an extension of my military service, because the oath that an Army officer takes is the same oath as a senator takes. And so this is our official campaign motto is same oath, new mission. Our unofficial campaign motto is it does not take two legs to kick ass in Washington. So there you go, Chris. You're welcome.
I think you said that on my radio show one day, and I thought it was it was a great line. I mean, for politically speaking, to turn part of your amazing story. It's not like I can say that without any partisanship whatsoever. I mean, getting blown up in the battlefield, not succumbing to injuries, mentally, emotionally, physically is an extraordinary achievement in its own. But then to go back and get a master's and a PhD and teach, and then to take up the call to your country again in administration, and now you're running for the U.S. Senate. I think it's just a frame on who you are, because you're new to the political game.
Right.
And I think the narrative coming out of the gate for you going into this election cycle was very important. It's important for any political candidate to do. Everybody knows that, especially when you're up against a well-known political figure in Mark Warner.